Now the first thing we want to do is click on our glass object, and we're going to do File, Export Selection. I'll make a new folder since I've already kind of done this. Actually, I'll just use the same one, but put it like in a folder, glass or bottle. Export that out as an FBX. So you should have an FBX for this guy right here. And I'm going to close out of Maya completely, so I'm not even worrying about any of this stuff while I'm in Painter. We'll come back to Maya later once we're done with the Painter stuff. So export that guy out. Now, once we're inside of Painter, we're going to start this just like every other project. We're going to do a new Painter project, same template, metallic roughness. We're going to pick our mesh. So I'm grabbing my FBX file, and I'm putting this to a 2048. So I'll give you guys just a second to kind of take care of that. Okay, everyone feel like they're in a good spot? All right, so I have my glass FBX file inside of Painter. Now, the big change with this one is going to be the fact that we're now dealing with transparency. Now, Painter does have transparency, or it's actually called opacity. It's not really the most reliable. There's some cases, I think, if you had like a single-sided face, it might work a little bit better. But because the glass is a thickness, I kind of noticed when I was working on it that I had a lot of issues kind of using opacity. But I'll kind of show you how to set that up anyway, so you can at least try to see through it. But I'm going to go in here to the texture set. Just make sure, is it named properly? Mine's called glass material. You can rename yours real quick. Let's go into the texture set settings. We're going to bake all of our mesh maps again. And we'll do the same ones we've kind of done before. So I'm going to do world space normal, ambient occlusion, curvature, and position, but probably not thickness. So I have normal, ID, and thickness turned off. Okay, we're going to bake that. Okay, so I have all my mesh maps baked. Now, the one thing that's going to be a little different with this is before, I think when you guys have done kind of every other material, most of you have probably started with a preset. Like you're always digging through the material presets, seeing if you can kind of find a good starting point, and then you kind of add stuff to it. There is not really going to be a good preset for this one. So instead what we're going to do is make a fill layer, and we're just going to set up the material properties for glass. So we're not starting with the material, we're going to be starting with a fill layer. So I'm going to make a brand new fill layer, and once I make that, I'm going to delete the other empty layer that's always kind of there. I'm just going to get rid of that. So I have a fill layer, and then down here in the properties, we kind of want to figure out what properties make up glass. And we're going to put a label on it too. So I do think we want color, not because like the glass has like a texture color, because like texture color would be like the table, like there's an opaque solid surface to it. The glass's color is coming from transparency, like it's a colored glass. But I am going to leave color on because I still want to see a label on it. I think height's going to be important still, roughness, making the glass kind of blurry in sections, sharper detail where it's kind of clean. The metallic property, we could take it or leave it. I don't think it's really going to matter. But we're going to leave, I guess, kind of all this on. But the one thing we're missing is the effect of transparency and opacity. Like we can't see through this fill layer. It's completely opaque. Now to do this, what we have to do is go back into our texture set settings. And like when we started that project, you know how like every time we've done this, I had you guys pick that PBR metallic preset? That always gives you the same map types: base color, height, roughness, metallic, and normal. We're now talking about introducing a new property that's not part of the typical PBR workflow. So at the top in this texture set settings, you guys will see that little plus symbol. You're going to hit that, and it's going to give you a list of other properties that you may want to add to this thing. And there is not a transparency, but they do have something called opacity. So let's add an opacity attribute. And you should notice when you do that, that on the list, like opacity pops in at the bottom. And it is listed as what's called a linear 8-bit format, which is totally fine. So we now have an opacity property. Do you see opacity on the object? It doesn't really, it looks the same at the moment, but look at the material settings and the properties. Do you guys see that new thing pop up where it says OP? So just click on your fill layer, look at the properties, and you should notice there's a new material setting that you can turn on, opacity. Now we're going to enable it, and if you scroll down through the list, at the bottom you'll notice there's now an opacity slider that's involved with this fill layer. Let's just try sliding it down and just watch the viewer. Doesn't seem to be doing much yet. Let's go up to base color. Let's move this to black. Oh, I gotta change my display, I bet. Where is it? Just give me 1 second here. Is that disappearing for anybody when you slide it?
Nope.
Yeah, I think it's the... I forgot to double check this part. Oh, there. That's what I'm forgetting. All right. So go click on the fourth button down for your shader settings. We haven't really been in this section very much, but you click on that fourth one, there's like a box at the top where it says PBR Metal Rough. So this is kind of controlling what the viewer is using for its material properties. And even though we've added an attribute, this doesn't quite know that there's no opacity, so it's not showing up. So you click where it says PBR Metal Rough, and there's one in here where it's PBR Metal Rough. I think it's with the alpha. Yeah, I think it's this guy. Right here. You're going to pick PBR Metal Rough with alpha blending. Let me try sliding that down again. There it is. So you can tell it's trying to make it transparent, because opacity is like the opposite of transparency. Doesn't that look great? Like the way it's calculating that? Like it pops kind of weird. Yeah, so I just want you guys to see there is opacity in here, and it's kind of useful sometimes if you're doing like a single-sided face. Like if you had just like a poly plane, but there wasn't a thickness to it, this tends to work a little bit better. But this isn't really made to show you how like real glass works, because you know how when you look through glass, there's like refractions, it bends and distorts things behind it. This is not going to show that for you. So even though we've added it, and you guys do have the ability to kind of move it down if you want to see it, I'm going to recommend we just kind of leave it up and don't really mess with it. But if you ever feel like you do want to try to kind of fade through the glass to maybe see something on the inside wall, I'll let you guys play around with that at your leisure. I'm going to leave this at 1. So we have the opacity attribute. We might not use it much, but it's there. So pretty much all the work we're going to do, we're actually going to kind of treat this bottle just like it's a kind of opaque, solid object. Most of the glass properties are going to happen once we get back inside of Maya.
Is there a point of having the opacity setting if we're not going to use it? Is it there because it's going to do something in the render? Or?
No, it's not going to even. We're not even going to output it. It's not going to change anything. This is literally just so you guys see it that it exists, just in case you want to use it in the future for something else. Or if for some reason, like if you wanted to fade it down, just so you could kind of see the texture on the inside wall, you could maybe use it that way. I didn't really find it very useful in this case. But it's there if you want to play around with it. But yeah, we're just going to pretend like that doesn't even exist. We're going to move on to some other areas. So it's going to look solid for right now. So I'm going to leave this. We'll rename the fill layer to glass material. I'm going to make a folder, put this in it, call this glass folder or glass group, just kind of like we've done before. Now, what would be some interesting things to do to the glass? Well, I definitely think we want to get some roughness variation, and it'd be nice to have a little bit of like bump where like it's a little bit wavy, maybe have some scratches inside of it. So what we're going to do is stack a couple other layers on top of the glass to break it up. We're going to do this mostly with a bunch of fill layers. So in this group, I'm going to make a new fill layer. And I'm going to call this, let's do it glass waviness. So this is going to just be an overall kind of slight distortion for the glass. Now for glass waviness, what properties are going to make that up? This is probably just going to be height. Really subtle undulations so the glass isn't too perfect. So on this new fill layer, I'm going to turn off all the properties except for height. And on this fill layer, we are going to add a black mask. Okay, and now once we've added the black mask, you're going to click up in the effects. Let's add a fill. And from here, you can just kind of go through your grunges or procedurals. I just want to find something that's going to have some kind of nice waviness to it. What's that?
Crystal
2. Let's see, where's that guy? Crystal 2? That one's not too bad. It's kind of cool patterns to that. I tend to find that the ones that work the best are the ones that are kind of very cloudy and soft and kind of billowy.
Clouds 3?
Yeah, like some of these cloud ones are pretty good. Clouds 2. Clouds 2 is a lot softer, which I like. 3 might be a little too busy. Black and white spots, even though it looks kind of noisy, there's some settings in there where we can really blur that quite a bit. And there's a few other ones which are kind of unique, which are the 3D textures. Now, these ones are interesting because anytime you use a 2D texture, like all these other grunge maps, this is kind of mapping according to the UVs. Like it's a 2D effect, just like you doing a texture in Photoshop. 3D textures, like these cubes right here, are different. This is almost like a giant cloud of color that has nothing to do with UVs. It has more to do with like where the object is sitting in this three-dimensional cloudy effect. I might actually try one of these guys just to change it up a little bit. I'm going to try the simplex noise, 3D simplex noise. If you guys want to play around with a different one, that's fine. But let's just drag one of our procedurals to that grayscale on the fill. Now mine's on it, and just to verify it, if I hold Option or Alt and click, you can tell it's there. Now, even though it's not doing anything yet, because I haven't modified the height property, I just know if I do adjust it, doesn't that seem like that's going to be really small, fine bumps? Like the glass waviness needs to be a lot more broad. So if you end up looking up reference for glass, like glass bottle, pretty much all the reference for this stuff, even clean glass, like if you look at like something like this, you can tell there are these really broad waves along the side. See all that like very subtle bending? Even like with the reflection, you guys can kind of see how it's sort of curving back. Oh, wow, you can't see any of that. All right, let's not look at that one. Yeah, you can see the edges of it. The projector's not helping, but there's like distortion all over this guy. Very broad patterns. This is going to look way too busy. So I want to, like for mine, I feel like I need to scale this up quite a bit. So let me kind of look at my controls for that. I'm using the 3D simplex, but maybe see, balance is going to be kind of my contrast. Definitely don't want to do that. Let's look under the noise parameters. I got scale. I'm going to bring the scale down. Yeah, I'm trying to get something closer to this, where they're much broader, soft shapes. And if you guys are able to accomplish that with like the clouds, 2 or the crystal pattern, have at it. Okay, so we have some nice waviness, or at least I have the texture there. I'm going to click back on the fill layers color, and we just need to adjust the height slider to see if it's going to do anything. So I'm going to move height up or down. Are you guys seeing like it kind of bend the reflection a little bit? Yep, so you can kind of see the severity of it. Now, obviously, you don't need to do this, like where you're cranking it up too much. Yeah, it actually looks like you're basically doing melted glass. We want to keep it kind of subtle, so maybe for me, I don't know if I think it really matters if we go in or out in this case, but I'm just going to kind of go up to about like maybe 0.2. Even that might be pushing it. Okay, so there's one. Let's also add in some scratches. And I'm going to do this with a different fill layer, just so they're not fighting with the same height properties. So let's do this again. I'm going to do another fill layer. I'm going to call this glass scratches. Now, when you scratch a glass bottle, what material properties do you think would change with the glass? Height for sure, right? It might be a little indent. And roughness, because when you scratch the glass, aren't you adding these like jagged kind of rough properties to it at that point? It's not a smooth cut. So let's, in this case, turn off everything but height and roughness. And we're going to do the same thing on that new fill layer. We're going to add a black mask, put a fill effect on the mask, and I'm going to look for scratches. There's a bunch of different ones you can do. Let's see what we got. I got grunge dirt scratch.
Actually found a really good one called sandpaper.
Sandpaper? What's that? Let me see that. Where'd you find sandpaper?
It might be an alphas.
Oh, it could be like a brush or something maybe. Yeah, there might be some under alphas. You can do that too. At that point, you're kind of hand painting it wherever you want. That's fine. I'm just kind of taking the easy way out and just trying to blanket it with a bunch of scratches with a procedural. I like grunge scratch rough. What's this guy? Fine. Those probably are a little sharper. What do you guys think?
I like checker.
Checker's my favorite. Yeah. I'd definitely do a checker pattern. I'm going to try grunge scratches rough. But again, feel free to mix it up, do something different. You can blend multiple scratches together if you want. I'm going to drag this to the grayscale box. Okay, so let's Alt-click on the mask. You guys been using that quite a bit? Like Alt or Option clicking on the mask to always look at it? Yeah, get in the habit of like previewing it so you can just see generally what that's going to look like. Now, even though I haven't changed anything, I know this is going to look a little bit weird. Those are massive cuts in the glass bottle. So I want to go to the grunge pattern and probably scale it a little bit. Maybe I'll do a scale of like 2 or 3. Just to make them like a little smaller looking. Let me try 3. 3s might be okay. Now just like the amount of the scratches is my next issue. This is all over the bottle. I probably don't need to go that heavy with it. Now thankfully, I think this particular procedural I'm using does have some settings for that. I have this actually has a lot. I got scratch width, length, so I can make them thicker, narrower. And I believe the balance is going to be our way to remove some of the scratches. So balance, I can kind of fade out a lot of these guys, so it's something closer to that. And even that's pretty extreme.
Scratch masking kind of shows like the depth of it.
Yeah. And now, once we kind of think we have a good starting point, I'm going to go back to my color part of that fill layer. And this is going to be pushing in, right? The height should go down. So I'm going to take the height slider on that fill and push it. You can see that it is definitely working. That is very believable right there. Okay, like I don't need to push it too far. We're going to do something like that. I have a bunch of little bumps on it. And some of these are actually like rendering artifacts because it's kind of getting a little aliased. But I don't really mind it because it might look kind of cool to have these little like nicks and kind of, bumps on the surface. So I'm going to leave all that. And I'm going to change the roughness. So in this case, I want the roughness to go up. Now, this is a much more subtle effect because I'm kind of moving the roughness back and forth. And you don't really see that much change. But I sort of know it should be a higher setting because it is going to be rougher where you scratched it. So for now, even though it's not making that big of a difference, we'll maybe put the roughness to like 0.7 or something.
Hey, I'm getting a serious seam, and when I switch to triplanar projection, it's not doing anything.
Where is you're having a seam on the bottle?
Yeah, straight down the side.
Yeah, that's where it's probably cut. The triplanar, I don't know if I'm... Yeah, I don't see it on mine. If you could let me try going to triplanar like you're doing. So I'm on triplanar. Play around with the hardness slider and bring it down and see if that kind of reduces it. Is it a seam from the scratches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
It probably is.
Oh, no.
Is it the waviness?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's the waviness, that actually might be a good reason to use that 3D texture because the 3D one will not produce any seams. But which one did you end up picking?
Well, I went with the same one that you. Well, not the 3D. I did the clouds too.
Okay.
But I switched out to triplanar projection, and it's better.
Okay, yeah. If triplanar works on that, you're good.
I see a little bit of a seam, but it's nowhere near as blaringly obvious.
All right, sweet. And thankfully, too, like I think when you render it, like you're probably never really going to see the seam. So maybe when you kind of bring it back in Maya, just see if it shows up in the render. And if it is, you could maybe just like rotate the bottle so it's kind of on the back side.
Right.
And I'm fine with you guys rotating the bottle a little bit if you just want to hide something so it doesn't affect the render. But I think we have some pretty good height variation now. Probably the last thing I'd like to do is just add in some like smudges, like some fingerprints, just to break up the roughness a little more. So I'm going to do another fill layer. I'm going to call this glass smudges. And for this fill layer, we're going to turn off everything except for roughness. So it's just a roughness effect. Kind of like your skin leaving like oil and residue on the surface of the glass. That's all we're doing. Okay, so on glass smudges, we're going to do the same thing. Add a black mask. I'm going to add a fill effect to it. And let's see. Smudge actually does bring up one. I don't really care for that one. If I type in finger, you're seeing a bunch of fingerprints pop up. Some of these are kind of more like a dusty effect. But let me see. Some of these might work. Dust. In the alphas? Yep. Yeah, these are more kind of like individual prints, and obviously you guys would kind of put those in there if you kind of need to.
There's full like 5-set fingers in there also.
Yep. I'd be kind of careful about that because like it's going to look like someone has their... It might stand out too much if you just use this giant handprint on there. And another thing too is think of the size of the bottle. Like it's not really that big, so that's going to look maybe like a baby's hand. Yeah.
Could you just do like a stencil and then just place them where you want?
Mm-hmm.
Just like would that be easier?
Yeah, you totally... So if you want to do these guys, yeah, I would do like a paint effect layer and then use a stencil and then just kind of like paint where you want it to be. Yep. Yep, that's totally fine. I think I'm going to stick with like a fill though. Let's see. I might try to find something that's not even like a fingerprint. I'm just going to find some kind of like overall smudginess I can use. Yeah, there is one here. I might just,
Soft one after that, you just, yeah.
this one, grunge white. That's not bad.
Smudge stretch, smudge star.
Yeah, a couple here are pretty interesting. I'll try this one out. So this is grunge wipe smudgy soft. And I'm going to drag that to grayscale. Let me see what this looks like. Okay, this one. So I have a seam on this guy. So I'm hoping if I do triplanar, that should remove it. It's not bad. So I'm kind of playing around with the hardness of my triplanar. See how it's kind of like trying to blend where the different images are kind of combining? Like there's really bad seams from the different triplanar maps. This is a little nicer of a blend. And I'll probably have to scale this one up just a little more. Something like that. And I am going to play with the balance just a little bit. I don't really want to have this much smudge detail in there. I'm probably going to bring it down kind of like this. I'm just playing with my contrast settings. I'm going to see if I raise the roughness up, kind of what that does. That's pretty subtle. Oh, you can kind of see it. I'm doing like a shift right click. I'm just kind of moving the light across the surface, and I can see a few areas where the roughness is working. Yeah, it's pretty subtle though. So I'm maybe going to add in just one more fill. I'm going to try this other guy as well. We'll stack a few. So this is grunge wipe smudgy heavy. That one's kind of intense. So I'm kind of having one for these really subtle, broad smudges. This one I think is be kind of nice if I want to have some more defined, chunky sections where it's a little thicker. Oh yeah, that actually looks better. See all those like dry patches now I'm getting? So I just picked 2 layers. Now at the moment, this is covering the previous one. So we've kind of talked about this before. How do I get both of these to sort of merge together? Yeah, like so max is one we've used. So multiply is another one. Multiply is going to remove a lot of the detail. Max is great for combining them together. So now I have the other one and this kind of drier patch. I kind of like that. This bottle is going through a beating right now. Now you'd be kind of surprised though, because I know this looks like we're really distressing the hell out of this thing. I think it's going to be a little better to exaggerate the details a bit more in here. We could always ease it back in Maya and kind of fade out the textures once we see it in the render. But I know when I was doing it, it felt like a lot of the details I saw in Painter didn't really show up as much as I thought when it was finally being rendered. So I think it's okay to kind of push this a little farther. But either way, we've got that glass material set up pretty well. Like I'm feeling good about that. Now we want to get a label on top of the glass. So I'm going to treat this as a different group. I want to keep the label separate. It's going to be very, very important. So make sure you do a completely new folder for the label. This is going to change kind of how we export these out later on. We need this in a different group. So label group. And you can put dust and other things in here too if you want. But this is going to be for everything that goes on top of the glass. So let's try a label first. So with a label, I'm fine if you guys want to build it from scratch using shapes. I think it's probably going to be easier if we just find something online and just use it that way. But if you guys like want to go into Photoshop, make your own labels, I'm going to let you guys kind of figure that out. So let's do old paper label. One big thing is when we're doing this is we are expecting this to look like paper. Like we're grading it that it should feel and look like a paper material on top of glass, not plastic. Well, not like a plastic Coca-Cola label. Paper. Now there are a bunch of these that have kind of interesting templates. So with something like this, you probably could start with one of these, bring it in Photoshop and like add text to it, make your own font, your own company. That one's kind of cool. Oh, I like this one. So I'm just kind of clicking around randomly. Ooh, phoenix feathers. Willful wizards. Yep, that is definitely the one we're doing today. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we're definitely doing this one. So I'm using the willful wizards. Now, when you guys are going to eventually kind of make a mask for this to cut it out so you can see through to the glass behind it, I would highly, highly recommend to keep your label as a simple shape. Like keep it as like a rectangle. Don't go into these really intricate floral patterns and crazy circular shapes. Keep it as a rectangle because it is a little tricky to cut this out if you have something really kind of intricate. There are ways to do it, and we can sit down and do one-on-one, but I would really recommend sticking with a rectangle shape if you can. I just typed in old paper label. I don't even know how I get to this point.
Does it matter if the rectangle is more vertical than horizontal?
Nope. I'll let you guys decide. We've had a few people before that just do like little price stickers on their bottle, like a for sale that has like a $1 written in like pencil on it. You can do that if you want. I think I got to this one through this image right here. So I found this one just popped up in my search list kind of midway down. And then I noticed it had other images that are related to it. And that's where the Willful Wizards came in. Okay. But either way, we're going to save it. And I'm going to put that in our directory.
That's what I was having. Stop.
Yeah. Even if you want right now, just to kind of like go along with the project, you guys could just use any of those just temporarily, and you can always replace it later. So I'm not too concerned about it being perfect at this point. Now I want to bring this into Painter. I've saved an image. I think it's going to work. So I'm going to import my resource. So down here on the shelf, we're going to hit this button right here, import resources. Add, and I'm going to find that file. And this is going to be listed under a texture. And I'm going to have this import to the project. So I'm just importing it. Import. There it is. There's my label.
So I'm going to import as an alpha.
I did texture.
Texture.
Yep. Because this one is like an actual color texture. It's not alphas. I generally just only use that when I'm doing black and white information. So this is going to be a texture. Okay.
Texture.
Now, there's a couple ways to do this. We could either just manually position it in the right spot using like a paint or a stencil. Or I could even do something like a fill layer and just see what that looks like. I might just go with like maybe I'll try like the paint route. See if we can get this to work. So to do this, I need to add a regular layer, not a fill layer. We're going to try this out. Okay, so I have the group. I'm going to add just a regular empty layer. Again, not a fill. Let me put that in the group again. There we go. Okay, and now what we want to do is make sure that on this layer, if I scroll down, see where it says base color. We're trying to like paint the color of the texture. I'm going to drag this label to base color, and I just want to see what this looks like. So there's a problem. You'll kind of notice that like when I'm doing this, I'm just dragging it to the base color of my just regular layer. And see how it's treating it kind of like a brush? Where mine's being cut out because mine is like a rectangle. It's not fitting in the brush shape. And unfortunately, because mine is a really tall rectangle, I don't even have the ability to change it. Like I can't scale that down. There's no transform settings here. So I'm going to actually kind of back up. We're going to do this a different way since I'm kind of running into an issue. I'm going to delete the layer, and we're going to try this instead as a fill layer. So we're kind of backing up. So I have a fill layer. And I'm going to have color. I don't need metallic, normal, or opacity. I'm just going to have color, height, and roughness turned on for the fill layer. Now, when I drag this to a fill layer's base color, let's watch what happens. So this, like, remember, a fill just kind of blankets the whole thing across the UVs. So you can kind of see right now, if I look at the UV stuff, it's just stretching that across the entire surface. I need to scale this down quite a bit. So I'm going to go up here. We can leave it as UV for right now. That's fine. But I want to scale this up to make it smaller. So see how it's kind of tiling? We can turn off tiling, though. So tiling, let me zoom in over here. I'm just moving the scale to make it repeat. For tiling, let's do none. And then you'll notice there is one label that you're kind of focused on. And even if you do leave tiling on, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we could paint out the rest of the stuff anyway. But I'm just going to scale it up. I'm noticing that my proportions are a little off. See how this is a square? And the one I saved is more like a rectangle. So to change that, under the scale, this padlock has to be turned off. That way I can move the width and height independently to kind of fix it back into the right shape. I also want to translate it. I'm just going to kind of move this around until I get it in the right spot. I have no clue if this part's even visible to the camera, but we're going to go with it. And I can rotate the bottle if it's a little off. So that looks good. You know, I could rotate it if I wanted to a little bit. I'm going to turn the padlock off, and I need to bring in the width. So it's like that. That's a little better.
If they wanted to get a perfect match, they could just pull the aspect ratio of the image with height and just kind of input that in and then lock it and then scale it down.
When you lock it, it'll actually link them together again. Yeah.
Well, they can still do some that.
Yeah, what he's talking about is if you look up like the resolution of your file, like 500 by 1200 or whatever, you can actually use like fractions to figure out the ratio and then kind of relate that to what these numbers mean. Math, which no one's going to do. Or just look at it until it looks okay, that's what I'm going to do.
That looks a couple pixels off. That's a F minus.
Yep. Perfect. So I'm kind of happy with the way that's positioned right now. Now it's there, but on the fill layer, I have color, height, and roughness. I've got the color working. At least it looks pretty good. What are some issues with the ways this material is blending with the glass?
Well, it's not lifted at all.
Yeah, there's no lift, right? And the scratches. This has kind of been a big one that you guys have been kind of fighting the whole month. Remember that when you look at the height layers at the top, it constantly adds height together, and we don't really want that all the time. This should cover the height from the previous one, right? The scratches shouldn't push through this thing. I mean, it might be kind of cool if we had a couple scratches on the paper, but I don't want every scratch on the bottle to be doing that. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the height layers. There's my paper for the fill layer. I'm going to change this blend to normal. Oh, sorry, on the group. There we go. Normal on the group, and that removes it. And now I can go back here and take the height slider And see how when I kind of move that up and down, it's kind of making that lip. It's subtle. And let's also change the roughness, because I'm kind of using that shift right click to move it. Doesn't that feel like more like a plastic right now? To me, it looks like plastic. Like that's really kind of shiny. So I'm going to bring the roughness up quite a bit. Now, obviously, like aside from this, you guys can go in there and start layering stains. You might want to add like faded areas. I could do another fill layer to change the color, add in some more variation to it. I'm not really going to get into that because I kind of want to keep moving forward. But when you're doing it, of course, you may want to add some of those other layers to break up this label even more. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another fill layer below it to kind of cover everything else with color information. It's going to seem a little weird, just kind of bear with me here. I'm going to name this layer label. Okay, this is my label. We're going to make another fill layer. I'm going to put it below the label, but it's still in the group. So see how this fill layer is kind of covering the rest of the bottle? This is what I had before. It was just like a label hanging out. But when I turned the tiling off, that kind of removed all the other pieces, right? Add this here. And what I'm going to do is just color pick from my paper texture. So I kind of want to have a paper texture here. This will make sense in a second. Is it going to work today? It is. And on this fill layer, I'm just going to turn everything off except for color. I just need like a blanket of color there. This is going to help us out because what we're going to need for the export is when we go into Maya for this to work properly, I need to create an alpha so the layered material understands where to cut out the label. I don't really have an alpha yet, and so this is going to kind of help us in Painter to make this guy. And one more thing I'm going to do is also add some little dust splatters and things on the top. So let's do one more fill layer. We'll call this dust. And the dust, I don't think I'm going to give that height. I'm going to say it's probably thin enough where I don't need height for dust. But I'll do roughness and color. And for the color, I'm just going to pick whatever color I want. Actually, I think the gray is a pretty good color for dust. And on this, for the dust, we're going to add a black mask and a fill effect. And hopefully I can find something under grunges that will work. Actually, if I type in dust, there's a bunch. I'm going to try grunge dust small. Let me just look at this. Okay. Just kind of rotating it, kind of moving it around, seeing if I can get something interesting on the top. And I also have a seam, so I'm going to try doing triplanar and bringing down my hardness. Let's do... Yeah, it's a little hard to see. Let me just bring this value down. Okay, there it is. Yeah, it's there. That color I picked for that bottom fill layer was really bright, so I couldn't actually see where the dust is. If you want, you can just turn this off just temporarily to kind of help you visualize where the dust is going to be. Just in case the colors are very similar. Let's see. What do I do for roughness? Roughness, I'm going to crank that up a little bit. Okay. Now, once we're through with this, and I think this is going to be pretty good here, now I'm kind of ready to get an export out of Painter. So you guys, of course, might spend a little more time refining this, but I want to show you how to get this out of Painter so we can still have time to get back inside of Maya to kind of show you the material.
Before we get into that,
Yes.
my scratches, I thought were good, but they're still coming through the label.
Make sure on your, let me think here, these scratches. So on the label group, go to your height layers at the top. Like that folder for your label.
Right, I actually don't have any attributes on the label.
Oh yeah, there's nothing, but go to the height at the top of the layers. Like where it says height.
Oh,
Yeah, go to height. And is your blend mode still set to linear dodge?
oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yes, put that to normal.
There.
Yeah. Okay. So why did we do this? So the reason we're kind of having this weird fill layer kind of behind everything is because when we bring this inside of Maya, for the layered material to work, it has to have an alpha to basically generate the masking information, like where to cut stuff out. And there's nothing really in here that has an alpha detail, because when we export out our maps, all we're going to export out is like color, roughness, normal, the normal usual suspects. The only way to get an alpha out of here that we're going to use is to make a mask on the group, and we're going to actually apply that as a new output. So basically what we need to do here is we're going to click on this on our group. So make sure all your label and dirt information is in its own folder. On that folder, I want you to make a black mask. You're going to see everything disappear that we did. And then we are going to add, first off, a paint layer. Now, what I want to do with the paint layer is reveal where the label is. Now, it's a little weird because if I paint white, you can see like it's there, right? What I'd recommend you guys do to kind of get this to work is when you go to a paint layer, click on the brush, bring the brush up, just really quickly kind of paint over the surface where the label is. And I know it's going to go a little beyond the shape. That's still totally fine. But get something kind of like this, where you're just painting white on the mask. So you kind of get this revealing effect where you're seeing the label. Is anyone stuck at this point? Okay. Now what I need to do is to get this mask to work. I'll show you what it looks like. See how the mask, oh, I missed a spot down here. So my mask is very cloudy and it's not really matching the shape of the label. I'm just kind of doing a really quick paint just so I can at least see where the hell the label is. Now we want to jump in here and refine this just a little more. Now, since mine is a rectangle, that's kind of why I recommended doing a rectangle. Remember that shift trick we were doing with the paintbrush, just to like draw those straight lines? You're going to want to go back to your paint effect layer. But I want to now paint black to remove that excess stuff that's on the outside of the label. We're going to trim it out. So on the paint layer, make sure you're on your brush. Move your color slider to black. We're not painting white now. I want to paint black to remove information. I'm going to zoom in, bring my brush down a little bit, and I'm going to tighten it up so it's really sharp. You guys remember the hotkeys for that? Like Command, right click. Yeah, bring it in, bring it down, and I'm going to click here, hold Shift, and I love that little help menu every time. Draw right down the side. And I'm just going to kind of keep eroding away at it until I get it right where I want. And it's not really going to be that big of a deal if you kind of eat away at the label a little bit, because that might look okay if like part of the label was kind of partially missing. Yeah, question?
Actually, I played around with the white and black brush.
Yeah.
I found out that it's a transparency layer, which means that if I use the black brush, it actually affects the scratches I put into the group. So using eraser. Actually,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you mean like the scratches in the label group?
Yeah.
Yes, you're probably seeing like all my dust pieces are missing right now. Yep.
So
Yep.
eraser helps. It erases the white. So the scratches we can see them.
Are you seeing them like on the label?
I mean, to clear the excess area, you're using the black brush, right?
Yeah.
But it actually eats out the scratches and dust.
Yes. Right. Yeah. My scratches are actually in the glass group.
Oh, okay.
So I have them part of the glass. So that could be part of the issue. But I still have like dust effects with the label. That is missing because I had all these little kind of dust particles everywhere. Those are gone at the moment. We're going to fix that in a second. We'll come back to that. But all I'm doing right now is just kind of holding Shift and trimming around the label to get a little bit of a cleaner alpha for it. I promise this will all be worth it. And maybe just because that's kind of interesting, I may even take like this and kind of like eat away at one of the corners. So it's a little bit kind of rounded. Maybe part of it's missing down here. And I can play around with different brushes, so it's a little more natural. Okay. So this is what my new mask looks like. So it's a lot cleaner right now. I know we had something like this earlier, but basically I needed this actual black and white mask information. This thing we're creating right now, that is going to be a texture we're going to save out of Painter. That's going to be used inside of Maya. Now the other thing we're missing, which kind of comes back to what you were saying, Jaga, like the whole issue with like dust and other things aren't showing up because I lost all that. Now the reason mine is gone is because I was doing my dust as a mask within the group. So let me turn this off. Like all this stuff is currently missing in mine. I need to bring it back. What I'm going to do is actually take this mask for the dust and I'm going to move it into this guy instead. So it's in the folder, not on the dust. So let me hit Shift to disable this thing.
Why don't you just drag it above the folder?
Putting it above it? Yeah. We could, but again, I need this dust alpha. I need this to be part of that mask. So when we export it out, I need the texture to understand that those dust particles are another layer on top of the bottle. So I kind of need to merge this and the other label alpha like all together in the same map. So I need to move this and do this.
Different groups, like a group specifically for
Actually, yes, you could. Yeah, if you want to do different groups, it means in Maya there's going to be something a little different because you're now adding another layer to the material, which you guys haven't seen that yet. But yes, you could do it that way.
So wait a second, so you just, you drag the dust mask up to the label group?
Right. So yeah, what I'm going to do is on the label group, I want to copy this guy and move it up here. So let's try this out. We'll see if this is going to work. So I'm going to copy mask, and I want to see if I can paste it. If I can't, I might just have to redo that, but let me see. I do it, replaced it. Let me try this with a fill. Is it going to work? No. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to kind of back up and fix this. Just kind of make a mental note of what that procedural is you guys use for your dust or whatever that. I'm sure you all have something in there. So I'm using grunge dust small. What we're going to do is just hold shift to disable it for a second. Go back up to this guy, like the mask for your group. Add a new fill effect to the group. We're basically just going to add that same procedural in here. So that was grunge dust small. I'm going to do grunge dust small here. Yeah, there we go. And I think I rotated it a little bit. So on the group, like for the whole folder, for the mask, add a fill layer to it. And then on the fill layer, just drag in whatever that procedural was you used earlier for the dust. I was hoping we could have pasted just the grunge effect, but when you copy the mask, it actually copies everything, so it kept overriding that painted detail I did to trim out the label. I just don't want to redo that. So this is going to be quicker than redoing it. But once you eventually get this grunge map back in a fill effect on the group, I'm going to put this blend to max. So this is kind of what we're trying to get at the end of the day, is this thing. This is kind of my end result. It's that grunge effect layer doing a max blend mode with the hand-painted label alpha. So I have it set to max lighten. But you should notice if you look at the mask that it looks like the white shape with a bunch of like random white particles around it for like whatever the dirt is you're adding. This is a reason why we left this as the last material of the month. Because there was a lot of weird things we're doing here. Okay, let me go back. And I think now what I can do, I probably don't even need this mask at all here. But let me just kind of turn it off. Let's see, is this even doing anything? Not really. It's actually adding some dust over the label. I'm going to leave it. Now, the one thing I do need to change is, are you guys noticing that when you added this, that the color of your dust is like a different tone? Like mine, because I remember earlier when I did that fill layer at the bottom, I kind of like chose the same color as the paper, and that's what it's using at the moment, because that is the color outside of it. So if you want, go back to that bottom layer and just change it back to like a gray color or white. And you should see the dust turns to that color. And this is all being recorded, thankfully. And if you guys do get stuck with this, because Friday's lecture and lab is going to be a little easier than the rest of them, it's just final renders, you probably will have time to fix some issues with this if you get stuck. So I'm not too concerned about that part. Okay. Now we're ready for the exporting process. So I want to get this out of Painter and bring this into Maya. Now, you know how before, when I was showing you guys the export textures, we had all of you build the this preset, right? So you made a preset, you got all these working. I got actually a copy. Let me get rid of that. We need to make a new one because I want all those channels, like I want all those output maps, but I also need this. This has to come out of Painter so I can use this in Maya to physically layer the two materials together. This is a very key part of the whole thing and why we set it up on a mask on a group. So to do this, the first thing we need to do is turn this mask into an anchor point. And I showed you guys anchor points when we were doing the pulley. I'll kind of show you this again. All right, so click on your mask for the group. And again, it should look like that, or very similar to that. Go up to your effects, and then choose that bottom one called Add Anchor Point with our sweet little anchor icon. You should see it drop in an anchor at the top. Do you remember like what the point of the anchor point is? Like why we were doing this before?
Some of the layers, some going above the others. I'm really learning the magic.
To designate a spot where things are gonna be.
Yeah, it's almost like setting like a marker. Like anytime you put an anchor point on something, it means I can reuse that in other areas. So I could like, it wouldn't make sense now, but if I wanted to, I could use this anchor point, make a new fill layer, and then I could blanket everything with like a glossy coat in all those same spots if I wanted to. So it just basically allows you to reuse that information over and over again in other parts of the layer. But by us setting up an anchor point, I can now take this information and copy it into a new map. Now to do this, what we're going to do is make a new output. So if I can find that. So go back into your texture set settings, where we were doing like our baking, the bake mesh maps. We added the opacity here earlier. Go back in your texture set settings. You're going to hit plus, so we can see all these new options again. And we're going to choose user 0. This is a custom channel. This is not a material property. Imagine this just like a weird standalone black and white alpha. It could be anything. Pick user 0. And it's going to be left as, mine is saying linear 32 float. We don't actually need it as a float file. 32-bit float just means it's a massive file format. This would almost be like an HDR image or an EXR file. We don't need that. This is just an alpha. I'm going to change this to L8, linear 8. Now I want to make sure that this information gets put into that new channel I added. So I'll kind of show you how this works. Remember how we were using the C key to go through the different material properties in the viewer? Like hit C, right? And the mask shows up. But if you keep hitting it, watch what pops up eventually. This wasn't here before. Like I'm hitting C, and eventually I'm going to end up on one where it says user 0. You guys are probably seeing that happen as well. Now there's a checker pattern on it. What does that mean when you see the checker?
Alpha.
Yeah, it means that it's invisible, right? It thinks there's like an alpha thing going on where there's nothing there. That also happens in Photoshop all the time, where you don't have a layer and Photoshop has that weird checker fill. That's what we're seeing. So what we want to do is put that into the user map. Now to do this, at the top of your layers, make a new fill layer. And name it something like glass alpha, like something very obvious. So you know this is going to be your alpha. Make a glass alpha fill layer. It's covering everything. And what I want you to do is down in the properties, see that there's that new user thing that's now showing up as an option? Turn off everything except for user 0. So you should see the bottle again. But there's one attribute on there.
I don't.
What happened?
It's still plain white.
Did you turn off, go to that material, did you turn off all your properties on it?
Yeah.
Oh, make sure you're viewing the material. Hit M. Yeah. Okay. Now, down, you guys see that user 0 slider where it's like 0 to 1? Click where it says user 0. See the anchor point tab at the top? Click on anchor point and pick the label group mask. Now, even though it hasn't changed anything visually, that just copied that alpha we just built and put it into this new user channel. Now, to verify it worked, what you want to do, is look at your user 0 channel again. You can hit C and kind of go through them, but look what it looks like now. Before that was a checker pattern. That's not a checker pattern anymore. It's now sourcing the alpha. So this means I can finally save that out of Painter, like as its own texture file. Could you imagine me dropping this on you like the first day?
I quit.
And everyone's doing character animation.
Does Painter respect PNGs?
Yes, it loves PNGs, as a matter of fact. Every texture you guys have saved out should be a PNG anyway. Do you mean like PNGs with alphas?
Is that another way where it's like, if you do have a shape that's not a rectangle, what a PNG version of that?
I haven't tried like importing a PNG resource. I don't, because PNGs have alphas built into them sometimes. Like I don't know if it would respect the alpha. I don't think it will.
If you're importing it as an alpha mask, it needs to be square and it can't have alpha on it. It needs to be black and white and solid.
Yep.
Yes. All right.
And that's kind of why this wizard thing was messed up, because everything is this perfect square with Painter when you import it.
Yeah.
So it's like distorting it quite a bit. But we were able to fix that once we put it to a fill layer, because I can then scale it back into the right shape. Okay.
Why is the corner of your right central?
Oh yeah, actually I just saw that too. Something may have happened here. That's actually kind of weird. Maybe. That is odd. I wonder if it's no.
Did you wear that one down with the brush?
It's this. I see what's happening. So the dust is actually revealing it for some reason. What I'd probably have to do in this case is do a paint layer to like paint black over that above the dust to fix it.
Put it underneath your paint.
Under here?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's being covered by.
Uh,
Oh, you mean put the grunge under the paint? Yeah, let me see if that fixes.
well,
Oh no. Abort. Yeah, all we have to do is like somewhere over here, like above the grunge. I might have to go back in there with a brush and just repaint like a new paint layer with black, just to cover that back over. We're gonna kind of keep moving though. This looks fine. This is nice. This looks good. Everything's normal. All right. I haven't saved this at all, so that was very smart. Let's save my project. Okay, saving it. Let's do the export. Okay, so go to your export textures, go to configuration, look for the RenderMan preset that you guys created previously, like under the configuration tab. Look for this guy. What I want you to do is once you find your RenderMan preset that you built before, right click on it, and I want you to make a duplicate. So make a copy of it. And then name this something different, like right click, do a rename. I would maybe call it something like RenderMan Pixar Surface Glass. I think I called mine custom, but just name it something different. Now, what do we need here? We have to make a new channel for that alpha. That's all we're adding to it. So this is all the same. You're going to hit gray at the top to make a new line. Let's not just have it called grayscale. I'm going to use that texture set. I'm going to hit the little $sign and put in texture set underscore alpha. So hit gray, rename it to the $symbol texture set underscore alpha. Now, where do you think this needs to pull its information from?
User 0.
User 0. Remember, that's the one we picked. So drag user 0 to the grayscale box and just pick gray when it pops up.
Gray channel.
Yeah, gray channel. Yep. And now you're good. You've built it. Okay. So now that we have this kind of set up, okay, I have the output. Let's go back to the export area. Under the config, oh, choose your directory for where it's going to go. So let me fix that real fast. So I'm going to I'm making a folder in my source images for the glass object. So I'm making a folder. This is in my source images. I'm calling it glass. So it's going to go into a glass folder in source images. PNG 8-bit is perfect. The config is where you pick your preset. So look for the one that you just built. And then I want you to hit export. And we're going to look to make sure this worked. We're going to go back in here. I'm going to go to the desktop. All right, I'm going to go to the desktop for me. Source images, glass. Okay. That is not what I was expecting. Did everyone else's work? Like if you look for your textures, are you guys seeing the alpha? I wonder why mine didn't work. Let me double check this real quick. User 0. Oh, I turned off my layer. Oh, jeez. All right. So I actually disabled my top layer for some stupid reason. So I got to export this again. Oops. Yeah, there it is. So this is my alpha, like that. Now I'm looking at the file. There's that. Diffuse, normal, roughness, specular. So it's all the same thing, but that's the key. We need this guy out of Painter. Okay. Once we get to that point, we can finally go back into Maya. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to save this again. I'm actually going to get out of Painter completely just so my laptop doesn't blow up. Let's go back into Maya.
The bottles of solid black, I'm not sure I have them.
The alpha?
No, not the glass alpha. In the layers and substance, it's, I guess, the material that I made in the glass was just like completely gone.
Okay.
All the scratches and stuff, and then solid black, but I'm not sure.
I'll have to look at that maybe in the lab. Did it work?
Well, like with the dust and the label and everything, like it's under the max for some reason. That should all be max? Not normal?
For the height, it'd be normal.
Yeah, it's just, oh yeah, under height, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you get stuck, I may have to or Shane and I will have to kind of look at that maybe in the lab. Okay. So what we're going to do is go into our project with the glass. So let's load this up. Get this guy here. Now I'm kind of opening a scene where I've already done the glass bottle. This is actually my final version of the scene. I'm going to really quickly make a new material to put on the glass. So let's try to set this up. What we want to do is, to get this working, we're going to go into the hypershade. And the big change here is making a layered material this time. This is not going to be... What is this strobe effect happening in the back? Great. Fun. Yeah, go in the hypershade, make a new tab, you know, if you're your glass. And before, I think you guys were using the tab, typing in PXR surface, right? This time do tab, do PXR layer. You're going to pick the PXR layer surface, not the regular surface material. Layer surface. Oh, yeah. This is what the layer material looks like. You're like, oh no, what's all this stuff? Pixar layer surface. Yep.
Yeah, this is oh yeah, 2 notes.
Are you sure you're picking layer surface? You're not seeing what nodes are you getting? They might be on top of each other. Just move them and see if.
Material and layer surface 2SG.
All right, let me. It should have worked. Weird. For some reason, when you're using a tab, it wasn't making the whole thing. I just picked it from the shelf.
Much like my normal wasn't coming up.
Yeah, it actually very similar to that. That's really strange. But you guys should be seeing something like this. If the nodes are out of order, just kind of take a real quick moment to reorganize them. It should look like this, where you have a gray node, which is the material. There's the shading group. And going into the material, there's something called a Pixar layer, a Pixar layer mixer, or the Pixar. This guy goes into the material, and then there are 2 layers called Pixar layer 1, Pixar layer 2, that go into the layer mixer. So it kind of goes left to right. The Pixar mixer, yep. On the gray node, this is still the material. Just rename it to something like, you know, glass material or whatever. I'm going to call mine glass lecture. Now I want to assign this gray node, which is the material, to the glass object. So I'm going to click on the object, right-click on the material, assign it. Now, this guy works a little differently than the Pixar surface. It's the same idea, but if you click on the layer and just look at the properties, look at what's popping up when I click on the material. Like, this is the diffuse area. And you guys kind of remember what's supposed to be in diffuse, right? Like the color. Like, let's look under specular. What was supposed to be under specular? Like face color, edge color, roughness, right? All those different connections you've done before. So this material is odd because you're not seeing any of the material properties. It looks like things are missing. The reason for that is because the layers themselves, like Pixar layer 1, this is tactically where all the material properties are hanging out. It's not on the gray node like you did before. The layers are where we're doing all the material connections. So layer 1, if you look at diffuse, there's color. You go to primary specular, there's all the same stuff we've seen before. You know, face color, edge color, roughness. There's a global bump on it. We're going to use that. Now, the only thing we have to do with the main root material is under primary specular, see where it says specular model, Beckman? What do we change that to? GGX, the only other option. Put that to GGX. Aside from that, you don't need to worry about this guy anymore. We're good. Now, if I go back to Pixar layer 1, actually, I click on the Pixar layer mixer. You'll kind of see how this works. What does it look like this is trying to do? Imagine these being 2 different materials. Yeah, it's kind of like Painter, where it wants to layer things on top of each other. The layer mixer needs to know which is the top layer, which is the bottom layer. So the one up here called base layer is technically your background. So it's weird because this is visually displayed at the top. This is technically the bottom layer. As you go down the layers, you're actually going up above the material. I know. Thank you for doing that. They completely flipped it, so it's a little confusing if you're used to layering in Photoshop or Painter, but it's just backwards. So this is the background. As you go down, you're going into the foreground layers. Now, the big key here is we want to name our layers. So I'm going to go to Pixar Layer 1 and click where it says, Pixar Layer 1. I'm going to rename it Glass Layer. I'm going to go to Pixar Layer 2. What would this be called, probably? Label Layer. Perfect. Or whatever you put, sticker layer, dirt layer.
More layers, how would you create?
So if you have multiple layers, because you're talking about doing like maybe the dust is a different folder completely. Did you export them out as different alphas?
No, right now I'm doing it like.
The way we're doing it here. Okay.
I would say like-
If you had different folders with you'd have different user maps coming out of Painter. The only difference here is inside of the material, we need another layer for this other texture you're going to create. You have to hit the little checker button next to layer 2, and that will create a third layer that you can eventually use. But we're not going to worry about that. Yeah. Okay. Let's try doing a render to see what this even looks like. So the material's on there. This might take a second. Okay, so here's my project. I already got like the metal on there. And my bottle is still that gray color. Now I'm going to hit the crop and just marquee over this and hit R to kind of force this to update. Okay. So that looks like by default, Pixar material, right, gray. Now I'm going to go to the glass layer and let's just test something out. So I'm going to go to the glass layer. Let's go to diffuse. And I kind of like moving the diffuse color just to make sure that it is working, that it's assigned. So on the glass layer, I'm going to go to my diffuse color and we're going to make it pink. And let's watch the render. Wonderful. I do not have to restart the IPR. That's a good guess, though. I know we do that a lot. IPR is broken. It didn't work. Does anyone think they might know why we're not seeing this pink color? Yeah. This is the background layer. Even though that probably is pink, what's covering it? The other layer. That's still gray. So let me just try changing the other layer's diffuse color. We'll do something different, like green. And look. So see how you can tell that other layer is the one that's appearing in the render? So at the moment, this label layer, which doesn't have anything in it yet, is completely covering the glass layer behind it. So it's important just to understand that. So what we're going to need to do is on the Pixar layer mixer, see that enabled checkbox right there? Turn off enabled on your mixer node. You're actually going to shut off the second layer completely. We're going to come back to this. So when I turn it off, look what happens. Like there's the pink. Like that's the layer beneath it. So now I know that, now that I can finally see the glass layer, and it clearly is working, even though it doesn't look like glass, I would feel comfortable bringing in textures, connecting it, and kind of getting this set up. So I'm going to go back to the glass layer. Let's look for the glass attributes. It's pretty near, close to the bottom. Kind of where you guys were doing bump connections. So there's a whole area dedicated to glass. And even though it's called glass, this is not only for glass. You could use this for water, diamond, anything transparent. So do you guys remember doing this with like the Mental Ray material, like the MIA Material X? If you guys were using Mental Ray, that's the same thing as the refraction and transparency area. It's all the same stuff. So we are going to hit enable on glass. I want to use glass properties for this layer. Check. I'm going to watch the render as we do this. Okay, clearly nothing is changing. It's pink. Refraction gain and reflection gain. Gain sliders always mean the same thing. how much intensity do you get from whatever the effect is. These are both essentially off. So I'm going to crank both of these guys up all the way. I want it to be refractive. That's transparency. That's what a refraction is. You can tell, oh, something's happening. Looks weird. Let's bring up the reflection gain. Let's see if it turns shiny. Okay, it's really slow. Highlights are appearing. What is my big problem? Even though you can tell it's trying to be transparent. Yes, this is still combining with it. So even when you get all this turned on, you crank up the sliders, you're going to notice that your diffuse is mixing with the glass properties. It's blending them together. Does glass have diffuse properties? It doesn't, right? Diffuse is like our opaque color. Glass doesn't have that. The label does. So what I'm going to do is uncheck diffuse at the top of the layer. And you can tell once we do that, it all disappears. Now we're getting something. Oh, like if you just turned it down to black but left it on? I think it'd still be the same render time. Yeah, I don't think it's really going to affect it. But you definitely want it either black, like turn gain down, turn color to black, or just uncheck it completely. Because when you uncheck it, it's turning to black. Now, one small thing that's kind of happening, you'll notice how I have these chunks of like pure black color. Looks a little bit weird in some areas, like dark shadow. That is something we need to fix with updating the IPR. So I'm going to hit escape. And I'm going to do a new IPR. It's still, like, we can still keep moving forward, but as soon as you turn glass on, you kind of have to make the render restart so it can properly calculate refraction rays. Okay. This will probably be faster for you guys. I think me recording this lecture is not helping. Oh boy. Yeah. It's much brighter than it was before. Here's what I had previously. See all the extra light that's now going through it because I redid the render? See that reflection on the inside of the back wall of the glass? That wasn't even being calculated before. It was like completely missing that. So from here, what do we really need to do? So before we connect any textures, we just really quickly want to get some of the glass properties dialed in. Okay, so the big thing is going to be reflection gain and the color. Those are the keys. So reflection gain, if I move it down, watch the material. Here's reflection gain. I'm going to fade that back. What is this changing? If it ever updates, there we go. Yeah, like the reflection intensity is fading out. So you guys may want to play around with that a little bit. You don't want to go too far because you're going to start getting some kind of like black outline issues. But if you notice that your key light is blown out, if it's way too bright on the reflection, if that bothers you, you might want to fade it back just a little bit. So you're just fading that intensity back. So I'll maybe do like 0.75 for mine. So it's just a little darker. The other big one is going to be the refraction color. So this is where you guys can make colored glass. So I'm going to click on it, and what color bottle do you guys want to do? Lime green? Chartreuse. Let's do like a green color, I guess. So I'm going to... Wine bottle green. All right. Yeah, let me just like... I'm going to pick the color I think I want. Actually, I have one stored for some reason. That's from like the other layer. I'm going to use this for my color. Oh no, like damn, that's dark. Right? Now the reason this is actually working, the reason it's doing this though, is because when you're looking through glass, you know how the thickness of the material is going to affect how dark it is? Like looking at soda through a 2-liter versus looking at soda spilled on a table. It's a lot thinner, so you can see through it easier. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's actually the opposite. This is almost like a multiplication effect, a subtractive, where it's removing light as it goes through it. The light's dying going through the material. So it's basically compiling itself over distance. The main thing you want to know is when you're trying to get a color to work, it will look darker and richer than you're expecting. So to compensate, just keep the color lighter than you'd expect and fade the saturation back. Keep it kind of like a pastel color, because that's like really faded, and look how strong that still is. Like that's still a pretty intense green. Looks pretty cool though. And I'm going to let you guys kind of figure out how you want to do it. Make sure you can still see through the bottle a little bit. I don't want it to be completely opaque. I do want to get some transparency. But I kind of like this. It looks pretty cool. So we're going to stick with that. So you guys get to pick your color. Now, once you kind of get a good like kind of preset set up where you're sort of happy with just the way the glass reflects, the color of it, now we can connect our textures. So I'm going to stop the IPR for a second. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go back over here. We're going to load in all of our texture files. Here we go. All right. I'm also going to save my scene. I haven't done that. All right. We need to make a file texture. Yep, simple 2D texture file. Let's load in the, go back up here, lecture. Load in the diffuse. That's always the first one we typically do. That's the one that has the label and I have some like dust particles everywhere. Diffuse. Okay. Yep, your color. I'm going to go up here and we want to enable the render band texture controls. sRGB. Under render band, this is linearize on, right? It's a color file. So I'm adding the render band texture controls to the file. I'm going to show you guys a shortcut, so we're not redoing the render band texture controls every damn time. So here's how we make copies a little bit quicker. Now when I make a duplicate, you know how you guys have seen that Maya's nodes rearrange constantly? They're like jumping around on you occasionally when you duplicate something. I'm going to select all my nodes in here and hit P for pin. When you hit P, it drops this little pin icon on the node. That'll make sure when you duplicate it, it's not going to auto arrange it into a new position. So P for pin. I'm going to click on the file node, and I'm going to go up here, and we're going to do edit, duplicate, shading network. Watch what this does. So click on the file node and go to edit, duplicate, shading network. So it makes a copy of the file with the 2D placement. But by copying it, it already has like the render band texture controls enabled. So it pulled that with it. And now, I mean, you can still make it from scratch, but I'm going to load in my specular, amazing, flat gray color. Really glad we saved that. Load that in. I'm going to do it again. Click on the file. I'm going to hit P to pin it again. Edit, duplicate. Oops, I have to select it. Edit, duplicate, shading network. What's next? Yeah. Yep. Rough. This is going to be my roughness for this one. Raw color space. Linearize off on that one. Pinning that. Click on it. Duplicate again. I need a fourth texture file node. Roughness. Yep. So it's going to be 4 of these guys total. Color, specular, roughness. The last one is the alpha. Like rename the file node. Yeah, it's a weird thing where like if you click on it, it actually doesn't let you rename it. I wish I could tell you why it's set up like that. Because mine's weird because my specular file is technically the roughness, the way it's named. Yeah, great, good times. This one is not roughness, it's actually my alpha, which you can see right there. So I'm loading that in. Move the alpha off to the side somewhere. We'll come back to this. Just kind of keep these 3 guys near each other. So color, spec, roughness. Yes. Yeah, all these are all just texture files right now. There's 4 of them. And I'm moving the alpha file away from the rest of them so I don't get that confused. We'll come back to this one. Just leave it off. Oh, the alpha one, because it's black and white. Yeah, that should be raw and linearize off. You're basically treating it like your roughness map. It's just a black and white data file. Okay. Now from here, once you get that going, oh, I also need the normal map. I didn't do that yet. So let's do tab.
That tear is not lower, that's what we use the normal and
Well, the tear would be probably in the height, or the normal, and it'd probably be in the alpha to cut it out if it's like missing. Yeah. That tear would be in a bunch of spots.
Where was the linear
Under the RenderMan settings on the bottom of the file.
one?
Make a Pixar normal map node, and then load in your normal map. So it's kind of cool. I can see like all the little wavy patterns in it, some scratches. Is my normal map. And what's the one thing we do with the normal map? We invert the bump. Because by default, it's going to look backwards. So I'm just kind of getting that out of the way. That's something we've already dealt with.
No, but I did that. I can close that, and you can put it on.
Now,
Normal map is under the patterns, right?
yes. PXR normal map. Okay, and then you're going to load in the normal map, and you're only going to turn on the invert bump checkbox. It's the only thing we change. Okay, now, we need to get these connected. So we've only got the glass layer set up. So I'm going to click on the glass layer, go into the glass properties. Now, which one of these maps will we use for glass? Not diffuse, right? Because glass doesn't have diffuse. I don't need specular at all. Specular I can skip. Because we just changed that ourselves with the gain slider. We're good there. Only thing I need to do is my roughness map. So click in the file, make sure it is the roughness file. You're going to put this roughness map into the glass roughness. Middle mouse drag your roughness texture file to the roughness under the glass of the layer. Connect it right there. And the other one is the normal map, because I want the glass to be wavy. We did all those little cool details. So middle mouse drag your normal map to the global bump on the glass layer. Now I'm going to try doing a render to see if this is changing. The other layer is still off, but by getting the roughness map and the normal map built, we should notice that the glass has those details in it. That's odd. Huh. That is very weird. I completely lost my color. Did anyone else's color just disappear?
I can't even get mine to read the first layer.
What do you mean read the first layer?
I disabled the second layer and it's not showing things or anything that I'm doing.
Yeah, I may have to look at that in the lab. Yeah. Let me try doing a new IPR. That is weird. My color disappeared. Like, let me try doing it. That might have been a glitch. Oh, now we're green. Okay. That was fun. This is the same render. Yay, stability. No bugs. That makes complete sense. I changed nothing. Okay, we're back. Now, I've got like it connected. I'm going to let it kind of render here for a second. It's subtle, but if I let it go enough, you'll probably see those like little wavy patterns, and you can see that giant shape where the roughness is being affected, where that label's hanging out. But the glass is working. And I'm not going to waste your time waiting for this thing to get clean. Just if you let it go enough, you'll see the scratches and all that stuff. They're there. It just takes a bit for it to calculate. So let's kind of move on. What we're going to do is go to this layer. Now remember, we turned this off a while back, right? We disabled it. Go to your Pixar layer mixer, re-enable the second layer. And then you're going to click on the label layer. So enable it first on the mixer, go to the new layer, and we're going to connect all these guys. So the first is going to be up in diffuse, because this does need to have information. That's our label, right? The label is the diffuse. So find your label texture file, drag it to that layer's diffuse color. I had it set to green earlier because I was messing around with stuff, but put it to diffuse color. And I'm gonna hit escape. This thing's still trying to calculate. Okay, diffuse color, that's connected. Let's go under primary spec, because I want to get that dry highlight on the paper. Remember, this one has nothing to do with glass. You don't need to look at the glass section at all for this layer. That was the previous one. Everything we're doing is up here. Turn on primary specular. Crank the gain up all the way. Bring the edge color all the way up to white, like we had you guys do before with all the other materials. And isn't that specular map used for face color? Like that's how you guys have connected it previously. It's the same thing. Find your spec map, drag that to the face color. It'll connect. There's the roughness map. That is specular roughness, right? To make the highlight dry or not. Drag your roughness map to where it says primary specular roughness. And the last one is your normal map is still going to go to the global bump on this layer. So basically, you're kind of noticing that like some of the texture files are going to different layers because some of them share properties. Like the normal map file affects both layers. The roughness is both layers, but the diffuse is only on the label layer. Diffuse shouldn't be on the glass. So there's a little bit of a weird mix where you're going to have some connected to one layer, some are going to both layers. And I had a screenshot of this in my documentation. So if you get stuck, look at the screenshot, and we can kind of assist you with that. But they're all connected. So I'm hoping what's going to happen here, fingers crossed, is if I re-render this, we should see the label and some specularity on it. But I don't think we're going to see the glass yet. But good. This is actually working. Good. This is what I was hoping was going to happen. I can see little like smudgy patterns. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like a scratch right there. It's working. Now my label is really blown out. If that bothers you, it's just like before. You guys could go in there and bring the gain down, drop the color gain on the file node. You could bring down the intensity of your specular map. I'll just really quickly darken the texture file. Like that?
No, flat, like a mask.
That's not good.
Which is why I brought it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I'll drop that down a little bit just so the label's a little darker. All right, we'll kind of go with that. What's the one thing that's missing? That's going to tie the whole thing together. Yeah, yeah, we haven't used that mask file. We still need to connect that. So the only thing we're missing is this one random file node that we haven't used yet. Where does this go? If you click on the layer mixer, look what's on that layer. Mask. That's an alpha for that second layer for the label. Right now, it thinks it's completely opaque, so the whole thing covers everything. As soon as you connect your alpha file into this, and I'm just going to middle mouse drag it. So this on the layer mixer. Look for layer 1 mask. You're just going to middle mouse drag your alpha file to that attribute. And I'm going to, oh, it's already kind of, let me reset it because I don't think the IPR is updating properly. Surprise. And bingo, there it is. It worked. Wow. This lecture was like running the gauntlet. This was a lot. So I want you guys to kind of do what you can. Obviously, like even if you have pieces broken, it's not quite visually the way you wanted, you can still go into Painter, re-export them again, and just update the files on inside of Maya. But once the connections are set, we can always come back and tweak this a little bit later. Yeah.
So if our label just inside, you know, like, simply rotate I'll pick the not the.
Like if you're not happy with the placement of the label, yeah, I'm totally fine. If you guys are a little bit, because you don't really know what is looking at the camera when you built it. Yeah, if you want, just go in there and you can totally rotate that until you get it in the right spot.
It'll work with it.
Yeah, yeah. If you spin it, you'll. I don't know if the IPR will update, but it'll move the label.
Okay.
Let me see if mine even updates. No, it does not. Yeah, sometimes you might have to re-render it. Mine's kind of getting stuck, but yeah, that's okay. Kind of cool too, because you can notice like I'm getting like those cool green caustic and light effects through the bottle. That's kind of casting on the blade.
But you said from the beginning that if you move geometry, it would update that.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it does. It's weird. Like you can move the camera and it updates, and occasionally that it does work with geometry, but in this case it isn't. Yeah, it's real hit and miss.
Can you remind the color in the file?
So how do you what?
In the file, in the, sorry,
How do you paint the flow? Pin it. Yeah. Just select all your nodes and hit P. Yeah, P. If you don't have anything selected, like if I don't select anything and hit P, that automatically pins everything. So you don't have to select everything. You can just like not select anything, hit P, and that does everything. But pinning just keeps it locked into place. But there is the network. So we'll kind of try to iron this out today in the lab. Get all the issues squared away, and then if you guys do have a couple small tweaks, you're still going to have time on Friday to get that fixed before we do the final renders. Okay, so, huh? Yeah, that we'll have to figure out. Yeah, yeah.